Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Dr. Robin Titus is here, the Assemblywoman. She's here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Nevada Newsmakers Studio is located at the headquarters of the Nevada Trucking Association. Motion and purpose are a truck's greatest virtue.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Assemblywoman Dr. Robin Titus. She is a Republican of District 38 and heads up the Minority Caucus. Pleasure to have you back on the program.
Well, thank you, Sam. I appreciate being asked to be here.
So you survived the special session.
I did.
What were your thoughts at the end of it?
Frustrated indeed, but not surprised. We knew with the trifecta that the Democrat Party has in both the executive branch and both houses that they were going to push an agenda to make sure that their basis in Nevada was secured for the next decade. And
which, frankly, if Republicans were in charge, you would have done the same thing.
Well, I don't know that that's true. You
really?
can say that. I don't know that it's true. I mean, maybe some would, but I have to tell you, I signed on to a bill and agreed to have a special judicial branch or nonpartisan branch do redistricting. I think it's the right thing to do, and I say that before special session, and I really believe that it's time to take whoever's in charge. Not that it hasn't happened in the past, not that in other states, because currently in this nation, in other states, whoever's in charge, whether it's the R's or the D's, are running amok as far as I'm concerned. I think it's time to be sensible about this and really represent the demographics, especially in our state. And I said it on multiple news reports, and I truly believe it, and I can back it up with my willingness to sign on to a bill that would do just that. It's time to recognize there's more than two parties in this country, and because that's why we're a republic after all. That's where we were recognized before, that everybody's voice has to be heard. And
okay, so would you be in favor of going to open primaries?
That's a different question as far as open primaries goes. I think that currently I think Senator Keffer introduced a bill about open primaries, and I've toyed with that idea. Is that the right thing to do? I think at this point in time, the other parties have an opportunity to put up their candidates, and if they get a strong enough voice, those nonpartisan voice, they need to show up. right now, as a Republican, having same-day registration, I think people are not excluded from the process. We have made it so simple to vote in Nevada now, the access to it. If you truly want to get involved and you want to decide who's going to be in a Republican representative in a 10 or 20 plus R district, you can go down and register as a Republican and vote that day for that person, and then you can become a nonpartisan again if that's what you choose for the general election or just by principle. So a closed primary doesn't mean closed, nobody gets to vote but the R's. Anybody, a Democrat could change their registration for the day and vote for the person they want. So for me, it's about a person being educated in the process, understanding who they're voting for, not voting for somebody that they were told to vote for or like their last name, like the way they look, actually doing some homework on that person and really making wise choices on who they're voting for.
Okay, so in a perfect world, what you just said is wonderful. In the real world, it comes down to 30-second sound bites or direct mail.
I think it's up to the candidates to do a better job with that. I agree. It's like if you haven't been a member of the community, I've lived in my community practically my entire life, been a member there, I've reached out to folks. Hopefully I'm known in that community more than just a 30-second soundbite. We know that it takes being involved in your community, I feel, garnishing that support from a community. People can come in, they can buy ads and they can buy that, but do they really trust them? Do they really know them? Do you know the community? I've heard you say all politics are local, and I agree with that, and I think it's important that you do that homework. We had candidates for the last presidential election on a nationwide, bought big TV ads, never got any foothold, right? They did because they weren't known in their community, and I think that's really the key. You have to be known in your community.
Well, I think the best example of that would have been John Connolly. You know, he spent I think it was $11 million and got 11 votes.
Right, right, and there's, you know, that's happening now. Name recognition is really important, but again, I think to run because you want to have a name for yourself or be important is wrong. To represent a community is the right way to do it. So being known in a community, whether you recognize your community as a state, or whether you recognize your community as a school district, whatever you recognize your community as, you should be known in that.
Okay, so I love Sigrovich, but one thing I'm still mad at him about is term limits. He pushed that through in the state and got it done. But isn't that part of the problem, is that everybody is, with the exception of yourself, everybody else is running for another job?
Well, I think that...
so that longevity, it's hard to come by.
Institutional knowledge is really important, and we're seeing that. We see that in the Assembly, where the turnover is huge, and I believe it takes a couple sessions to understand how the process works, to literally know how to get a bill through. You can stand up and you can yell and you can scream all you want, but have you been an effective legislator? Have you represented your communities? And that takes time, and that takes being willing to do your homework and work with other folks. And so I believe in term limits, but I also, and 12 years I think is adequate. I think it's time to move on to that next position or whatever you're going to do. But that institutional knowledge truly has been affected.
And you know, I'm going to mention the name, but Annie Black would be a good example of the exact opposite of what you're talking about. Somebody who was trying to make noise and ended up being totally ineffective.
Well, Annie Black was on your show. I watched her on your show, on this very show, and when you asked her what she was going to do, I think she was going to be a flamethrower or a bomb thrower, and she said that right from the start, and she did what she said she was going to do. She never promised she was going to be an effective legislator. She said to you that she was just going to throw flames or bombs. Is that what the folks that elected her wanted her to do? I feel the folks who elect me want me to represent my community. I feel I run because I'm a doctor. I represent healthcare. I represent rural needs, farmers, water issues, and that's what I think that folks like me that run bring to the table. I don't think she promised anything other than what she did. And was she effective? You have to ask her people who elected her whether she was effective.
Okay, but you know what the irony of this is? That I would guess that if you and she were to sit down privately that you would probably agree on a majority of issues.
Absolutely. And I reached out to her. She chose not to join our caucus, so she was never at any of our caucus meetings, never at the table. I'll tell you who was at the table, somebody like Andy Matthews, who truly, they had a sub-caucus, this Freedom Caucus, but they were at the table, all those members were at the table when we had our caucus meetings, bringing in ideas, adding, contributing, negotiating, talking about why they thought this way, or whatever. And I agree, Andy and I think we probably voted the same on, I'd say about 90% of the bills, if not. And I was sorry to see that she wasn't part of our caucus, because I think she could have brought a lot of information, her views. I didn't disagree with her views, but I went there to get things done and make sure that I represented my constituents. And so that's the difference.
Okay, so Andy Matthews came on the show during session, and he's written about the legislature and politics for years. Very smart guy. Yeah. But he was surprised at how much you needed to know to be an effective legislator. I'm disappointed, not whether he's an R or a D, but the fact that he's not planning to come back to the legislature, but seeking higher office.
Yeah, I thought Andy, I still feel Andy's also, like you just said, a very smart man. And again, his insight and views on bills was welcomed. I'm also disappointed he's not returning. He and he has to share with you why, and that's his personal choices and all. But I thought that he has an incredible amount of knowledge about the process and all of that. But everybody takes time, like he shared with you. It takes a while to get things passed. How does it work? I got far more legislation done in my second, third, and fourth terms than I did my first term when we were in the majority, just because I knew the process, what's reasonable, how does this process work, reaching out to the other side, getting the opposite party to sign on to your bills, convincing them that this is a good bill for the state of Nevada, not just firing shots out there.
I think that people would be surprised at how much working together goes on across the aisle than appears in the media.
I will tell you that it does have to happen. If you go to somebody and you rapidly learn, I think I've told you this before, you quickly learn who you can trust in this process, who are truly there for the state of Nevada. And what I need in rural Nevada is not the same thing that the folks in urban Nevada need. We need different things. We need some of the same things. We all want good education for our kids, but some of these other issues aren't the same. So you really have to go and truly walk in their shoes to figure out what that process is, and saying, just no, I'm not going to support that, or being criticized because I had a Democrat sign on to my bill. Well, I wanted to get bills passed. I'm there to represent, right? And if you don't have advocates on both sides, then rapidly you're not going to get anything done there. Well, you can sure, make a lot of noise, get in the headlines, but at the end of the day, that's what I'm not there for. I'm there to try to make a change and find a need, healthcare access, farmers' needs, those kind of things that really, we need to fix some of that.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be back with leader Robin Titus after this timeout.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years.
Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Before the masks, before the distancing, before the world changed, UMC was ready. Our response to COVID-19 began before the crisis did, with our own team of infectious disease experts who've spent their careers planning for this moment. With a pandemic response plan, we'd practiced again and again, and by blazing new trails in large-scale testing, including every patient we admit. Always ready. UMC.
I'm here at the Carson Valley Inn in Minden with Joey Whitaker. You have a great hotel here. Mike Pegerman's invested a ton of money into this place to make it just gorgeous. Tell people what they can expect when they come down and stay.
A real quality experience, Sam, and the rooms, you've stayed in them, they're good size, very well appointed, clean, and for about $65 Sunday through Thursday right now through the winter. After you're done with your meetings, you take a nice, beautiful scenic drive and come stay in a very nice, beautiful room. It's not a long way to get away to the Carson Valley Inn.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Assemblywoman Dr. Robin Titus of District 38. So let's turn to water issues for a moment. So right now, there is discussion of western Utah utilizing the basin that Nevada's been fighting over for decades, which is that eastern Nevada underground water that Southern Nevada Water Authority wanted to move down to Las Vegas. They've, in quotes, put that off for at least 30 to 50 years, but they still own the ranches, of course. But now Utah is saying, we want to take some of that water, if not all of it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's interesting. Water wars are pretty crazy, and they're going to continue. Thank goodness we had that 4 inches of rain last month that really helped tremendously. We got almost all of our total annual water supply in a day or 2 days. But the water issues are not going to go away. The courts got involved with that, and they kind of put it aside. We'll see what Utah does. I'm not up to date on what that, where they're asking and whether they're going to, how they're going to do that process.
But isn't it ironic?
It is. I'd say different than irony. It's just reality, right? For a very thirsty West, they're going to look at grabbing literally straws and taking that straw wherever they think they can suck out the moisture. And that's what's going to happen, and there's going to be battles. The Colorado River Agreement is a classic example of that battle where there's no water from the Colorado gets to the ocean, to the Gulf anymore, because it's all used up. And that treaty that we have with multiple states and where that water goes, if you look at Lake Mead and that water level, it's not just in eastern Nevada, it's everywhere. We are really being thirsty for water. The Northern Nevada Development Authority is doing like a survey on water usage and what you think. Interestingly, I was on a thing with Joyce Woodhouse that she put together a debate with high school students, and I'm forgetting the name of what the event was, but one of the questions was, should we stop development based on our water supply? And Assemblyman Watts was in favor of not stopping growth based on our water, but just being wiser about the water. And I don't know that that's really the solution to that. I think water is going to be something we are going to struggle with forever. Again, we have to be wise about it. Can we continue to grow and ask everybody else to cut back on their water use so we can continue to grow? Those are big time debates. I think that Southern Nevada Water Authority does an incredible good job using the water they have. I think Northern Nevada Water, the Truckee Meadows Water District and Supply, they are getting wiser about, they too need to cut back and be smart about their water use. One of the big questions when we chatted about innovation zones before was, where was the water going to come from? You can't do any of this without water, and so being smart about that, whether we bring it up from the ocean, we've talked about, moving the salt from water, and that's really expensive. But water laws, just you look at Mono County and Bridgeport and the Owens Valley and taking water down to Southern California, it's been out there as long as the West has been developed.
Yes, but I mean, when you look at what Southern Nevada is doing, it's been amazing. Mm-hmm. When you look at what Northern Nevada has done with the Truckee Meadows Water Authority, they have done a good job of having a long-term drought supply, but there is so much more that could be done. Right. That politically, I guess that they don't think that that's a fight worth fighting at this point. But at some point, if Bob Lucy, who is the chair of the Washoe County Commission, who was here earlier, says that he's expecting another 120,000 people on top of the 66,000 people that have already come here. That's a 40% increase in population. At some point, you've got to start going, do we need decorative grass in the middle of medians? Right. And other things like that? And is it worth figuring out a way to buy back some grass that has saved Southern Nevada so much water? Right. Let's take another break. We'll come back more with Robin Titus after this time. Yeah.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and Twitter. Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Events Center in Las Vegas. Host meetings and events on 2 floors. Stay in luxurious rooms and suites. Unlimited branding opportunities. Regional Italian cuisine by Chef Mark Segrisi. Flexible event spaces. Full buyout options. Visit ahernhotel.com today.
I'm Jeff Gehrman, an investigative reporter with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. I'm your guide for Season 2 of Mobbed Up, The Fight for Las Vegas.
You're in with every gangster and hoodlum in the United States. I don't go for that, Mr. Kennedy. I don't go for that kind of action.
I was on television accused of fronting for the mob.
Subscribe to Mobbed Up, The Fight for Las Vegas, Season 2, today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and YouTube. Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Dr. Robin Titus. She is an Assemblywoman, heads up the Republican minority in the Assembly, and represents District 38. So, all this money coming to Nevada, we're not even spending the money we've already got so far, correct?
Correct.
And yet there is even more coming, and yet we don't have employees for half the businesses that need employees. Where does this fit in your mind?
Well, the lack of employees is an interesting thing. You can't drive anywhere without a sign saying, help wanted everywhere, especially in the service sector, and for a reason, right? Many of those folks have said, okay, I'm going to change. This is an opportunity for me to get an education, get a different job. But the reality is, we still need those entry-level jobs, and we can't see a lot of growth unless we have those. And so, what's going to happen there? It's pretty scary. Some of this money, are we going to go help these small businesses grow? I mean, where are we going to put this money? The governor did this tour around the state with our state treasurer, and how best to spend the money. For me, this is funny money. This is a one-time dose of money and infusion into our system, and we need to be very wise about where we spend this money. Infrastructure, roads, those type of things that we do know, have jobs available, that are the good jobs. We know that our roads need to be fixed, our bridges need to be fixed. For goodness sake, our buildings need to be fixed, the state buildings need to be fixed. School systems, kids in Clark County and many districts are having to go to school in trailers. Let's invest in infrastructure, very importantly. We know we cannot use this money for a rainy day fund. That's something that I felt was really important that we should be using this money for, but we've gotten a statement that we can't use it for a rainy day fund. The other thing I thought we should do is put the money into our unemployment trust fund. We borrow money to help support this. We should be putting money back into that. One of the things we found out, however, was there's like an either or. We can put it all into there, or we can't. There's some scenario that you'd have to talk to our economic folks and our accountants on how we could do that. But I think there are wise things we could spend this money on. What we don't want to do is increase some things that we shouldn't, say salaries, hiring, employment, those kind of things on the government sector. And then when the money runs out, we can't afford that anymore. So being really wise about where we spend this money is so important.
Does it concern you that the decisions are being made by a committee rather than the whole legislature?
This process has happened for a reason. The Interim Finance Committee has been running the finances in off session since we started, since the state started. At this point in time, we have the authority to do that. People can come and testify. I'm a member of the Interim Finance Committee. I think that during session, we had bills to address that. So I'm not as concerned that there's how many are on the committee, just a portion of it. I'm not sure the exact number on the interim finance committee. However, we were under the impression that we probably have to have a special session to spend some of this money. And I'm for that. I think transparency is absolutely the key to the spending of this money, and then spending it without a lot of debate. I think it would be good to have a special session to spend. How are we going to spend this money? And so I'm not against that.
Do you think we're getting too much money?
I agree with Congressman Amodei that there is a lot of money coming our way, and we're looking for ways to spend it. I think he was quoted as saying we got $2.7 billion. We've only allocated something like $700 million on a statement that he had the other day, and I actually have to agree with that. I'm concerned that there is a lot of money and then there's a lot of waste.
Okay, let me throw in a quick question because we got less than a minute left here, because we were chatting about this in the break. Harry Reid on this program said several years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, when he was still in the Senate, that we had reached the tipping point as far as the debt went. We are years down the road and trillions of dollars past that, and still the economy has not collapsed because of the debt. What are your thoughts of when and what actually occurs? And you got less than a minute, so good luck on that.
Well, the reality is that our economy has had some collapses, right? We had a major recession as opposed to depression. We're looking at now things that are going high, supply and demand. We can't get some things. We have, lots of ships out there in the ocean that can't dock because of a lot of policies that are out there. So I think there is a critical mass movement where how much can we afford? Now, how are they going to pay for this? Are the taxes going to go up? I think, we're going to keep moving forward until we can't. And people always say, well, we haven't collapsed yet, so when are we going to collapse? Is it going to be my grandkids that don't have any finances? Is it my grandkids that pay for this? I don't know, but it's pretty scary the direction we're going.
And that's where we have to leave it. Robin Titus, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you so much for doing this as always. Let's take a break. We'll be back after this time.
Serving Our Kids Foundation's mission is to serve homeless, at-risk, and food insecure children in grades K through 8 throughout Southern Nevada. During the pandemic, Serving Our Kids has seen a 42% increase in the number of children served, providing more than 4,500 meals to kids in over 100 schools weekly. Serving Our Kids is powered by community support and volunteers. To learn how you can help, visit servingourkids.org.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
The Do It Right guys at Nevada Heating have one mission. Your furnace breaks down today, we fix it today. Why freeze for days while your furnace is down when Nevada Heating can get the job done today and you can get warm again? For nearly 50 years, locally owned Nevada Heating has been getting the job done right. Call today at 323-5585 and we'll fix it today. That's 323-5585 or online at nevadaheating.com. The Do It Right guys at Nevada Heating have one mission. Your air conditioner breaks down today, we fix it today. Why sweat for days while your air is down when Nevada Heating can get the job done today and you can get cool again? For nearly 50 years, locally owned Nevada Heating has been getting the job done right. Call today at 323-5585 or see us online at nevadaheating.com.
Watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. You can do that now these days. We'll see you on the next broadcast.